Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Production funding for Common Ground is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. Hi, and welcome to this week's edition of Common Ground. I'm your host, Ashley Hall. Common Ground is a new weekly series that highlights northern and central Minnesota culture. We'll explore the unique people, places, and events that are an important part of our region. Each week, Common Ground videographers, editors, and myself will take viewers on a journey of exploration into the worlds of art, history, and culture. This week, we'll introduce you to a depot agent who worked on the Northern Pacific Railway in Blackduck, a wood sculptor from Two Inlets whose wood-carved sculptures tell vast stories, and we'll take you through the transformation of what the Jaques Art Center in Aiken is today.
My name is Aaron Spangler, and I'm a sculptor. What I do is carve wood, essentially. I went to MCAD in Minneapolis for art school. How I got into carving, there was a sculpture that was a kind of a building, and I wanted these murals on the inside of it, and murals of kind of war scenes, and a picture of kind of a World War II style bedlam, which I've always been interested in as a kid. And so it's, in a way, it's a child's play version of war. And I didn't have any idea how to carve. I had basically one carpenter's chisel, which was not very sharp, and it was carving in whatever wood I had. And it just evolved into what I do now. In the work I still do today, objects are very important. I'll find an object that is a kind of indirect metaphor or something that's emblematic of what I'm trying to portray, and I'll carve that realistically into the sculptures. And so those objects still function, I think, in the way I was dealing with found objects, which was their juxtapositions next to each other, and the meanings that are created by putting two objects together is the same thing that I'm doing right now, except that I'm just carving them. Bas relief basically means low relief. Low relief can be, as deep as a foot. I mean, it can be fairly deep, but it's not in the round. It's a pictorial plane. And so I was really drawn to that, where I could still play with pictorial space and landscape and illusion. It's a very old way to work, but it's not really often done today in contemporary art. Egyptians would sometimes use bas relief on the sarcophagi. Lorenzo Gioberti did some famous bas reliefs, which I probably are more, my work is more pictorial, like that work, and that would be the Gates of Paradise. Looking back through history, that's the closest thing, but that, obviously is about very particular stories and a very particular narrative. My work has a loose narrative. It's not specifically telling us, it's not about a specific story, it's more evocative of cultural things that I'm interested in. I don't really look to history that much. I'm interested in rural life. I'm interested in extreme attitudes in rural life. I'm interested in militants and people that are on the fringe and under the radar. Like this sculpture I'm working on right now started out as I wanted to make this kind of epic piece about the rural 70s movement with the hippies moving out to the land, and for all the different reasons. I mean, there's vets, there's rich college kids, there's religious people at the time, and there's this huge land movement, which a lot of people left, and there's a lot of failures, but there's a lot of that still has such a huge impact on our culture today. So that's what catches my interest, is that line between illusion and real sculptural space, and that I can build a whole world because I can use illusion. Whereas if I was making sculptures of the actual objects, I lose the landscape, I lose the ground, the figure-ground relationship. I don't have a plan when I start. I have a loose idea, but compositionally, it's pretty flexible as I evolve through the carving. You know, like they say, like Jimi Hendrix playing a guitar solo, like there's no mistakes because you just react to it, right? You just react to what you've done, and so sometimes I'll break things off to carve behind things, or sometimes things will break and I lose it in the pile of wood, and then it's just not there. So then it's something else. So it's now if I had a very particular plan that I had to follow, I'd be constantly frustrating myself with that. But since I don't, that's not an issue at all. I don't have a favorite piece of art. It's just whatever I'm working on at the time. When I'm done with them, I'm done. I can look back in the past and say, be more objective and say, oh, that piece was better than this piece, and this piece works better than that piece. But I'm not really attached so much, as long as you know they have good homes and they're hopefully being seen, and hopefully people aren't just storing them in storage spaces, but they might be, that as long as they're being taken care of and someday people will get to see them, that's I'm happy about that. This is just black gesso, watered down a little bit. I've got a mixture of graphite and acrylic. That handle will shine up a little bit. That's all kind of wet back in there, yes. After I've done that and I get a feel for it, then I can go back in there and articulate with the chisels just to tweak the boards and get it to have the texture that I want. This is some of my previous work. When a spruce tree or balsam, tamarack, when they fall over, especially in the swamp, they bring up the whole root structure, and this big root clump comes up and it leaves a hole in the. This guy leaned some boards against that, over the hole, and then he built his little home there. And this is a sniper, and he's got his big sniper rifle, and he has a ironing board where he's got his shirt all ironed up, and he's got his refrigerator full of beer, and some kind of pet that he has in a cage here, an old keg barrel that he made into a cage. And then there's the old town hall building behind it that's maybe he's using just to store some wood in. Along here, when he comes down, there's a bridge with the tennis rackets, and that's the bridge over to the country club. And so he's living across the river from the country club. We're not sure, if he's on the good side or the bad side, but maybe he's on his own side. And this piece called Useless Knowledge is about taking the books and burning the books. And so here's an old army truck loaded with books that presumably going to be burned, or and then they've got this raft that they've built out of barrels, and it's up on these stilts. And there's an old teepee and kind of a Wanigan type thing where they're waiting for a flood. They've been out here just getting excited about when the society's going to crash and when it's going to give their life some purpose, because it's life is more exciting when you feel like things are that extreme and really are going to end. Well, they've been sitting out here so long that under these stilts, they built a bar. If you look underneath, there's a full bar with stools where they can drink and carry on and have fun. Off in the distance is a kind of a suburban housing development that's kind of encroaching on them. So they've been out here for a long time, waiting for. Well, I guess the economy did crash, so maybe they're happy now, but the flood never came. In the end, what I hope I end up with, is an object, a sculpture, that is the only way it can be. It's the only way that this can manifest, is like in this thing, and that it's like, well, it wouldn't be better as a this, or it wouldn't be better as a that, or it wouldn't be better as an essay, or maybe it would have been a better movie. Like, I want the sculpture to have that kind of totality and integrity of meaning, and to be a complete self-contained object.
After the war, I came here. I worked at 20th Avenue West in Duluth, and I didn't like that job, and this was bulletined. And I didn't check the job at all. I just put my name in for it, and that went by seniority. And I received a call that I got it. That was 1945, October 16th, 1945. And I would be 28 years old at that time. And it was one of my first steady jobs that I had on the railroad. Before I was on the extra board, which is a day here and a day there, and a week here and a week there, relieving other agents along the road. We did everything. Well, the main thing is railroading. Train orders, of course, were the guiding lights for the trains. They had one freight each way here, going through here, and the passenger train went through. Then we had a weekly train go to Kelliher, and those were mainly to pick up pulpwood loads out of Kelliher. They'd go up there once a week and service that. They call it a turnaround. And there was quite a bit of wood coming out of Kelliher at that time. I was single when I came here. I met my wife here. She was teaching school. I met her we got married in 1946. So that was the complete story there. Well, there was a lot of businesses. In fact, I think they had 3 grocery stores and, of course, gas stations, 2 hardware stores, 2 barbers, a theater. There was a lot of little stores all over, and a lot of business. We shipped in a lot of groceries and stuff for the stores, hardware stuff. And that was always coming in here. We had a busy little town at that time. We had the section foremans who were not in Blackduck. They were in Funkley. And each morning we'd have to telephone the line up to the section foreman to tell them the trains that were moving on that day so they could work on the right track. And we had a lot of different problems with the track because of frost heaving and in the sun kinks and stuff. We had accidents because of that. Sun kink is a expansion of the steel on the rail, which happens on real hot days during the summer. And the train goes over them and they'll react like a snake. And then that'll cause an accident to the train. We had one like that happen just south of North Home, and some of the crew people on that train got hurt, and I had to call the ambulance to get him to the doctor because he was in the caboose, and the caboose I think tipped over, and it was quite serious. And of course you have to get the wrecking crews out to stabilize everything that is working.
These keys were used for your switches. When you wanted to go right or left, they had a switch, and that would move the track so that the train would go on. They had to lock those because there was a lot of people that thought, oh, this will be fun. You pull the switch and the train goes the wrong way, you have a head-on collision. And that had happened a couple of times. It was very close. And so then they started locking them. They used a padlock like this, only it was smaller. And every switch, of course, had a different key. And so that's the reason they have those, is so that they wouldn't have an accident, because people would actually go out and try and switch the track, and then you got 2 trains coming head on. They had what they called hand cars. They were pump cars. You would ride on them and pump them. And one time Blackduck baseball team decided that they were going to take, because they felt the rates were still a little bit too high at 14 cents, so they were going to take the hand car and they were going to go to Bemidji to play a baseball game. Well, by the time they got there, they were so exhausted that, of course, they lost the game. But then it became almost a weekend thing that picnickers would go out and have a picnic. They'd take the hand car and go out into the country when it was a nice day and have a picnic. The caboose. That was where they had all their paperwork, they had their beds, their cots and stuff in there. They had their stove and stuff. And it would get really bad. I mean, it would really get dirty, and it would, of course, there was a lot of like fleas and stuff. And so they found a way to clean that. They decided that what they did is they'd take all their sheets and all their blankets and they'd wire them across the caboose. They'd take all their stationery and all their paper, they'd take that out. They'd open all the cupboard doors, and then they would find the locomotive, which was steam, and they would hook a hose to the caboose, and then they'd put steam in there. But they had to be really careful that they didn't turn it on real fast because it'd blow the windows out. And they said it cooked every bug that was in there. That's how they cleaned it.
Well, the Ugly Mugs Club, I think, was started by Trainmaster Minkle. He was in Bemidji. And he took pictures of all the employees that he ran across, including trainmen, engineers, firemen, station agents, towermen, and everybody that worked for the railroad. And I think they asked him why he's doing it. He said, "Someday you won't be here." And I suppose this is the time. So I don't think there's too many people left. Well, I think I was here in Blackduck about, must have been here 10 years, I think. That would be about 55, I suppose, 1955. I think he took it in the station too.
Francis Lee Jaques was born in Geneseo, Illinois. And as a boy, they moved from Geneseo to the plains of Kansas. I don't know the exact town. His father, Ephraim Jaques, was a pretty well-known hunting guide. And he would take people from the Kansas area or Chicago or wherever up into Minnesota to fish and hunt. Well, he became in love with Minnesota. So in about 1911, I believe it was, 1910, 1911, they took off with their covered wagon from Kansas to Minnesota. He walked from this farm 6 miles north of Aiken into Aiken to work for a taxidermist. And he worked for him for 3 or 4 years. And this piece of taxidermy up here was done in about 1912 that someone donated to us. And you can see it's as good as the day it was done almost. While he was living here in town, in Aiken, he owed the banker, Mr. McNeil, some money. And this is one of 3 paintings, this one here. But when we first started the Art Center, my wife and I got a call down in Minneapolis to meet this Mr. McNeil. And he said that my dad got these from Mr. Jaques because he couldn't pay his bill. So we have 3 of them, and there's 7 of us children. We can't split up 3 by 7, so we'd like to donate them to the Art Center. In 1917, he was drafted into World War I, and he served over in France in that conflict. Anyway, in 1924, Mr. Jaques sent some paintings and drawings to the American Museum of Natural History in New York. They hired him sight unseen only by the paintings that he sent in the mail. And he worked for the American Museum of Natural History from 1924 to approximately 1940. In 1940, Mr. Jaques was hired back by the University of Minnesota Bell Museum. He was hired back by them to come back to and design the dioramas that are there yet today at the Art Center. Mr. and Mrs. Jaques had no children, and they traveled northern Minnesota extensively. Their honeymoon was spent up in canoe country, up in the Boundary Waters. He was very instrumental in getting the BWCA, the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, dedicated and made into a park. He's still considered by most people that are really an authority on wildlife art to be the best that there ever was. In 1911, Mr. Carnegie donated $5,000 to the city of Aiken to build the Carnegie Library. Well, that was approximately 1911. When it was completed, the city of Aiken had to contribute $1,500 more to complete the building. So this entire building was built at approximately $6,500. The land was donated by a lady across the street, and the land for this in the water tower. About 12, 13 years ago, we started the Jaques Art Center. It was called Friends of the Arts to start with, and we were a division of the Aiken County Historical Society. And we started growing fast enough so they didn't have the same things in mind that we did, so we broke off and we formed our own 501c3. The building, Aiken built a new library, so this building became available, but how were we going to do it? So we had the city and the Friends of the Arts and our art center had a fundraiser at the high school. They sold tickets for $1, and whoever had the winning ticket won the Jaques Art Center from the city of Aiken. But the catch was you had to donate it to the Jaques Art Center. So we got the building for $1 back about 15 years ago. Since then, we've put on this addition where we are standing now called the Jaques Gallery. When we first started to build our building, we had hired an architect from Little Falls, and he designed a similar addition, but it sort of went all the way out to the street. In the Historical Society, which is this is a National Historic Site, they would not approve the building because it looked like the addition was more important than the existing facility. So about that time, Barden came on board.
Well, I came onto the Jaques probably 7 years ago, and I'm an architect by trade, and I have an art collection, quite a large art collection, and the board came to me and asked me if they could see some of my art collection to display in the art center. And as things evolved, it got around to finding out that they were looking at expanding the Jaques, and they had several other architects look at it, and then they weren't completely satisfied with it, and it wasn't meeting the criteria that we needed to meet with the national standards for historical buildings. So I came on board and developed a new design for them, and they really liked the design, so we went with that. So we started doing a fundraising program to expand the Jaques Art Center so that we could house the permanent collection of Francis Lee Jaques, and at the same time convert the original Carnegie Gallery, which was the Carnegie Library, into a rotating exhibit for artists of the area, regional area. The community requested and received the National Historical status on the Carnegie Gallery. When we took this over and developed this as our museum, we wanted to expand for that new gallery. When we made this addition, you have to upgrade the current facility. And when we upgraded this, we have to upgrade it to meet the codes. But at the same time we upgraded to meet the codes, we've got to meet the National Historical Preservation and not change anything. We didn't have a very big footprint, so two problems that we had, and we solved those problems. One is maximize this site. To maximize this site, we went to what we call a zero lot line. So this building is right on the edge of the lot line. We had to get our access ways for our staircases to meet our codes. So if you're looking over on the library side, you'll see that the back side of this Jaques Gallery is pocketed into the building. Why is that? Because the old building right here is on the National Historical Sites, and you cannot penetrate in front of that. So we've tucked the staircase into the building, recessed it. If you look at the new access point for handicap requirements, so that we have a lobby flush with the sidewalk. To do that, we put in an elevator system that's called a split level elevator, and it goes both directions and 3 different stages. So we can access this floor, the lower level, and the mid-level floor to get out onto the sidewalk. And at the same time, it is also recessed back from the facade of the front elevation. Hence, we maintain our National Historical Preservation requirements, so we stay on those rolls, and at the same time we can fulfill our requirements. Now when we did that, we can't use the old 100-year-old single bathroom. So we put in new bathrooms, we put in a new lobby upstairs, a new lobby downstairs, new classrooms downstairs, and a new Jaques Gallery. And one of the things that we like with guests coming in here to see this museum is they walk through and we receive a lot of comments from people about they don't know. They can't tell the difference between new and old. This was after the building was done and the additions were done. The question came up from varying artists, you don't have enough wall space. So the first thing we did was we built panels. And you can see opens and insertions. So we can insert these panels anytime we need them to hang more paintings, or take them out if we want natural lighting. How do we get more wall space? And the idea came up, hey, we were at a museum where they had portable walls. They showed me a picture of the portable walls and they said, can you design and build us some portable walls? They have plywood backing solid inside their frames and inside this sheetrock, so you can put pictures on both sides. We have approximately 4,000 people a year that come through our museum. And of that, we have approximately 450 full-time members of the museum, which is a good number, we feel, for such a small museum. Our museum, besides that, I might point out that we actively seek out artists from not only the region of this area of Minnesota, but all the other states around us, plus the entire United States and the world. So we feel together that is just a great thing for the community, because typically in this area, you either have to be down in the Twin Cities or in large metropolitan areas to have a place to show your art. So we have a venue here where people can actually show what they do in their art.
We hope that you enjoyed taking a step back in time and learning about all the little pockets of creativity right here in the Northland. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you next week right here on Common Ground. If you have a segment idea for Common Ground, please contact us at legacy@lptv.org or call us at 218-333-3022. Individual segments or copies of Common Ground, please call 218-333-3020. Production funding for Common Ground is made possible by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund. If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.